And I think as singers, we need to get really good at asking measurable questions
Ooh.
in our day-to-day practice.
Mhm.
And I think, and this applies outside of singing too. So rather than, is it good? Is it
Mm.
good enough? Which is not definable.
Mhm.
We've got to ask measurable questions. And that means that we have to get really clear on our goals.
Welcome back to the Sunshine Cafe, where we pour positive back into your day, sharing stories from real people who have made it through some real struggles, but were able to restore their health, hope, and peace. I'm Lisa Roers, your host, and as a certified coach, I'm here to guide you to be your best self-advocate, to help you restore your health, ignite your faith, and conquer those fears while you navigate your own healing journey so you can eventually exchange your dis-ease for durability. If you're looking for hope and encouragement to live a life you love, then you're in the right place. Let's dive in. Hello, friends, and welcome back to the Sunshine Cafe. This week, we're talking about the power of music. It cannot be overstated. There's a very good reason why music has been part of our human existence since the creation of humans, but music extends even beyond us as humans. There's music and rhythm in the creatures and in the entire world all around us, from the songs of birds to bugs. Music picks up right where words leave off. It communicates a beat, a lyric, a melody that puts a pep in your step, can soothe a broken heart, and eases our everyday changing emotions. So today, I have a guest who really knows this topic very well and lives these truths every day. Megan Terwilliger is, in fact, a studio owner. She runs M.E.T Studio of Voice based out of Nashville, Tennessee, and she enjoys providing services for her students, whether they're just, music-loving adults who are just learning how to match pitch for the first time, or working with one of her Grammy Award-winning artists who's trying to further refine their craft. Megan loves working with all singers, all levels, and loves to help them achieve their very diverse and individual goals. Megan actually has a master's degree in teaching singing and wrote her thesis on beginning voice class. So her online singing course, which is called Voice Builder, just sits so sweetly right in that sweet spot of her passion and training. Voice Builder, this online course, pulls singers together from really almost all over the world for instructional content and small group vocal coaching. When Megan isn't in the studio focused on singing, she is busy alongside her husband, Ryan. Together, they raise a small little pack of wolves. They have 3 very strong and amazing busy boys, ages 7, 6, and 5. I know you're going to be encouraged by this conversation with Megan, so let's dive in. Welcome to the Sunshine Cafe. I'm Lisa Rose, your host, and I'm really excited today to have Megan Terwilliger with us. She is a beam of light and a lyric of beauty, and you're going to find out why. She has a song in her heart, and she's got a story to share. Megan, welcome to the program.
Hello, good morning. I'm glad to be here.
You can even hear the beauty in your voice. Megan's a singer and a musician and a teacher, and she has so much wisdom in multiple spaces of life. And so I'm just so excited for her to come on and share her story a little bit of what she's doing and the ways that she's pouring back into people in the world. So Megan, maybe you just want to introduce yourself to our audience. Tell us a little bit about how you got to where you are and what you're doing in your business.
Sure thing. I am running a vocal coaching studio out of Nashville, Tennessee, and I moved here before it was cool from the West Coast to get my master's in teaching singing, and wrote my thesis in grad school on voice class. And so that was a huge moment for me because I didn't know how it would impact my teaching. And now I know because I have an online singing course called Voice Builder, where I combine online instructional content with small group coaching. And I am so thankful to do that because I love group learning. I love students in all facets of life who want to learn anything. I think that's fantastic. And when I am not busy in the business, I am busy raising a small pack of wolves. My husband and I are raising 3 boys, and life is full and never the same one day to the next. And I love that about my life 98% of the time.
The caveat at the end there.
Yes, indeed.
Well, if all of us could say we loved 98% of our life, I think we would all be doing pretty darn well. So, and I love the pack of wolves mentality. It's like, 3 little boys could definitely create a wolf pack type of feeling in the home.
Really, it feels like that.
Yeah.
It feels like that. It's constant activity. It's wonderful.
That's so great. That's so great. Well, I'm curious, tell us a little bit about how you got into music. How did music first get put on your heart? And I suspect if you are like me and have because I also have a musician's heart, of course, that there's probably some ways that music saved you even.
Mm.
So let's talk a little bit about how you pivoted to music, how that surfaced in your life, and maybe one of the ways that you feel music has saved you.
Mm. I grew up in a musical family. It was always music for me. I grew up singing constantly. I grew up playing a plethora of instruments. And in college, when I was trying to create a plan for my life, I looked at other things than music and singing, but it just always came back to singing.
Hmm.
And I'm so thankful for that. And I am an introvert who does not like conflict. And so music and singing words helps me to feel all the things that I'm scared to feel. And it has always been that way. And I didn't know that, of course, until I was in adulthood thinking about music in my childhood.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, oh, wait a second. That's why I used to go lock myself in a bedroom for hours at a time and just sing, because I was having these big feelings and needed to process them in some way and let them circulate through my body and my mind and my heart. And so that's what I did. And even now, I listen to a lot of instrumental music now because it teaches me a lot about singing, but also because there are no words. So any feeling I assign to a melody, it's okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sure. Well, and someone else is not putting their emotion into the song.
Yeah.
To assign it your own value. It's kind of like karaoke music for emotions. You can just put your own
Yes.
words onto it.
Yes. I don't know if you're like this, Lisa, but growing up, I would listen to songs and misunderstand the words.
Oh, yeah.
And then I'd have all my big feelings. And then 15 years later, I'd be like, oh, wait, those are the words? That totally changes the meaning of this song. Whoops.
Yeah. Wow. I thought that was actually a good song. I didn't know that was the word to it.
Yes.
Totally.
I still do that. I'm like, oh, wait, oops.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I like to take a musical license and take a really good melody that I know and actually change the words if I don't like them, because I'd rather plug in good words into my brain versus things that are bringing me down.
I think that's wonderful. That's a big tradition in folk music, which you probably already know, is to change the lyric to apply to the situation, the current situation in which that music is currently being offered, shared, performed, whatever.
Okay.
And I think that's beautiful.
Mm-hmm. It's definitely an avenue for the many emotions that all of us go through and all of us feel. I don't even know where this quote came from or if I created it or just, borrowed it from somebody, but I always felt like music picked up where words left off. It's like there's only so much you can say, and then you kind of get to this point where it's either so beautiful, the love is so deep, the pain is so profound that you just can't put it into words except for to say it in a song.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And it's part of the reason I really mourn the fact that our schools are not giving this tool to kids as much as they used to. It feels like we've really gotten downgraded in our school system, and it's an elective at best. And I know a lot of schools have completely just abandoned the music program. And I think We're really doing a disservice to our kids to not give them an avenue. They're not teaching them how to journal or do poetry. We're not teaching them music. So what are they going to do with all these emotions when they need to lock themselves in a room and sing, and they don't have the tools to do that, to get those, to move through those emotions, right?
I agree. I agree.
All right. So how about music in your life? You mentioned kind of hiding yourself in the closet, just singing to kind of get through emotions. Is there ever a time when music really saved you and kind of was your lifeline to whatever was happening in your life?
Yes. So many times.
Mm.
So many times when I was a little girl and my parents divorced. In college, when I did poorly at different things on stage and had to accept the failure. And in retrospect, now as I'm saying it in this moment, I'm like, isn't it so funny that I even looked at things other than music or singing? Because to process my failure in music at the time, I turned to music.
Yeah, great. Yeah.
It was just always music. And when I go back and listen to those albums or those collections of songs from those seasons in my life, I feel those things all over again. I'm like, ooh, I am blue all of a sudden, but 20 minutes ago I was fine.
Interesting.
So then in that moment, you either keep listening and you feel that nostalgia, or you move on to something new.
Yeah. It's like a smell or a sound that kind of comes back and
Yes,
brings
it's
back
just
that
like
memory.
smell. Yes. And so, you just hold that loosely and you keep moving forward. And I have had so many students over the years who hold on very tightly to the music that helps them through hard things.
Yeah.
So much. And I actually damaged my voice in grad school. And there was a bunch of music I sang in that recovery period to kind of rebuild my voice and create a new equilibrium and stasis in my voice. And those songs I don't sing anymore professionally because it puts me back to where I was vocally then.
Oh, interesting.
And so when I work with students who are recovering from a vocal injury or from just something that has been very traumatic for them in their life that isn't necessarily singing related, we often move through some music initially very quickly to get them building their voice again. And then we can sort of look broadly at repertoire or music selections that they really want to work on. Because our voice and our hearts are just so closely connected. And I think that's that's a blessing, and it's also very difficult. And so students, on occasion will revisit those songs from a tough time, and they'll be like, oh, I feel all these things all over again in real time.
Yeah.
And we just walk through that because what are you going to do? Hide from it? That's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, I just interviewed another gal recently who we were talking about how our brains, are wired to protect us and to keep us safe.
Yeah.
And it's interesting that music can be such a hardwired pathway that you can have a difficult time going back to a song, even if it was taking you down a path to healing. It can still bring up so many negative memories that it's almost like you said, you wouldn't want to heal through something with a favorite song because that favorite song is no longer necessarily going to be your favorite song. It's going to bring back a lot of hard things. But I think it's interesting how our brains have wired that this was a hard time. I don't want to repeat that. And so this song,
Right.
I'm going to remember that this song, sounds and smells and emotions are all tied together in those spaces. It's interesting. And I love that you had gone to music after failure of music.
I know, isn't that silly?
Yeah,
it's always music.
Yeah, it's really good though. It is a testimony of how much of a heart you have for that. So, and as a musician also, I just think it's interesting how, and maybe you see this with your students as well. We could hear three horrible things about our singing or our
Mhm.
playing, or maybe just one. You might have 100 compliments, but you get the
Yeah.
one negative,
Yes.
and it takes like so much to overcome the one negative. I don't know what it is about us as musicians or as our heart or human beings or whatever it is, but we hear the one negative thing and it takes a, exponentially more compliments to get that erased.
Mhm.
Do you find that
Mhm.
with your students as well?
100% yes. And I think as singers, we need to get really good at asking measurable questions
Ooh.
in our day-to-day practice. So rather than, is it good? Is it
Mm.
good enough? Which is not definable.
Mhm.
We've got to ask measurable questions. And that means that we have to get really clear on our goals.
Mm.
So rather than, is it good? It's, when I record this and sing it and listen back, can I understand the words? Did I sing that day crescendo the way that I wanted? Did I get all the breaths that I marked in my music? In performance, did I take that step the way I rehearsed, or did I freak out and freeze?
Mm.
Those are all yes and no questions.
Mhm.
So when we can get good at that, we pull the emotional subjectivity of am I good enough out of the equation, and we can have way more joy in our singing. And then when we get those negative criticisms, we just have a mind that is a little more refined to accept it and hold it loosely rather than tightly.
Mhm.
And I think, and this applies outside of singing too, are moments that are in real time. So whether it's a live performance on stage or it's a presentation you're giving as the new president of the PTO, or you're walking over to meet some new neighbors or whatever, if something doesn't go amazingly, that's okay. It's just one moment. It's just a reflection of that moment. It's not a reflection of everything. You have a bad moment on stage, that's fine. Move on. Get another moment.
Get another moment. I love that.
Get another moment and make it better.
Mhm.
It doesn't have to be, um, it can be fun. It can be polished. It can be well thought out. It can be prepared and rehearsed. It's never going to be perfect.
Mhm.
So
Right.
if you think, oh, I've noticed these things about my neighbors, and I'm going to go say hi and I'm going to ask them about those plants that they just put in the garden, that's thoughtful. And then you have a starting off point. You don't just freeze when you're saying hi to your neighbor.
Mhm.
It's, I have this goal in my business. Rather than sitting down and freaking out about it, it's, okay, what are 3 things I can do in the next hour to just move me closer to that goal?
Mhm.
That's all it is. And most of the time, you're going to do a pretty good job. Some of the time, you're not, but you're going to be okay.
Yeah.
You'll be okay if it's not perfect.
Those are such great recommendations, and I think it's all very applicable to music or outside of music.
Yes.
Your whole concept about getting measurable questions and really focusing on those things, that whether it's for business, for your personal, for your hobbies, for all the things,
Hmm.
really, really good and thoughtful questions to prepare yourself so you don't freeze up and get another moment.
Yeah.
You failed, get another moment. Um, I had a turning point once for me with performing. And again, it's another one of those, I don't know if I made this up or if I borrowed it from somebody, but I think somebody had said this to me, and it was really impactful to me. I've always had kind of a self-conscious, never been as confident with singing, and I've been a professional singer for a long, long time. So I've heard a lot of the positives, but I always have the one negative in
Yeah.
my head that's
Mm.
keeping me down. And I think it was a friend of mine, and they said, Lisa, when you sing, and you stand up on stage and you sing for a group of people, half the room's going to love you. Half the room's going to hate you for the same reason,
Yes.
right? Half the room might love me because I'm female and, brown hair with blonde highlights. And half the room will hate the fact that I'm female with brown hair and blonde highlights. It's like,
Mhm.
so it's just the whole concept that you can't make everybody happy, and that's okay. there's a reason that Spotify has 8,000 different channels because
Right.
everyone's got different music tastes. Everyone has
Mhm.
different people tastes. So I think the other fallacy in the whole process of getting another moment is thinking that you're always going to make everyone happy or always going to meet everybody's opinion. Well, you're
Mhm.
not. Not everybody's opinion's the same. So we have to stop trying to satisfy everyone's opinion because you can't be all things to everyone.
No, you can't be. You just can't be. Not even to yourself. You can't be all the things you want to be. So you just go back to those goals. What is my goal for this time?
Mm-hmm.
And then it's a yes or a no.
Yeah. That's so true. What is my getting really clear on our goals, personal
Mhm.
goals, professional goals, hobby goals,
Yes.
all of that. Interesting. So you're in Nashville. Have you ever
Mhm.
had any one of your students? I mean, I know you mentioned in a previous conversation that you and I had, you mentioned that you work with a lot of different genres of music from like, hard rock and screaming vocals to more classical pieces. So have you read any of your students go professional and make that their career?
Yes, yes. I have lots of students who are professional singers who are so there's a spectrum for singing and what we do with singing in our voices. But then in the professional space, there's a whole separate spectrum. So I've worked with Grammy Award winners to students who are uh, just gigging full time
Mm.
and
Okay.
who have like no desire to create records and who are just love live performance. And so that's what they want to do. And they pay their bills that way. And it is so fun. It is so fun to see singers doing that in Nashville and then taking out that outside of Nashville and working in different cities because the musical climate is different from one city to the next, which I love. I love being in Nashville. It's full of music. I hope that it is never not full of music. I love like the singer, songwriter, kind of moody vibe that Nashville has. But I also love like the heavy metal scene in the Northeast. That's fantastic.
It's so great.
It's so fun.
Yeah. And how cool is it that technology lets you work with
Yes,
both, right? That you could be
it's a
in
blast.
Nashville, but working with the heavy metal Northeasterns, you know?
It's so fun.
Yeah, that's great. Not to out anybody or to share anything that you're not comfortable sharing, but is there any story from your students that really stands out as a fun one that you'd want to share?
Mm, yes. Let me think for a second. I was working with a highly accomplished artist, and he came in, and we were working on not scooping. And in folk music, we scoop all the time, right? Those Endersons have those pitched scoops, and it's part of the nuance. It's wonderful. A folk song isn't really a folk song without it, whatever.
So really quick, tell my audience what a scoop is in case they don't know.
Okay, so if you need to sing a pitch up here, a scoop is when you come in down here and scoop really quick to the pitch, rather than uh, 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 uh.
Exactly.
And so many styles have scooping. However, it is not a functional habit that we want. We want to be able to sing without scooping because it makes the energy you're using to sing more efficient.
Hmm.
And I like efficiency.
So you want to
I
be able to
need
choose the scoop, but not default as a habit.
You got it. And he came in, and I think I made him restart that vocal warm up 10 times.
Goodness.
And I said, I'm so, he is highly accomplished. I'm so sorry. We need to do that again. We need to do that again. Nope, nope, nope. And finally, I was like, I'm so sorry. Should we take a break and come back to this? And he said, nope, you're just doing your job. Let's do it. And I said, okay, we have to do it without the scoop.
That is so great.
It was really
It's a great
sweet.
growth mentality that he had to be able to just say, nope, I'm going to get this done. I'm going
We're
to
going to
keep
get
working
it.
at it till I get it.
Yes.
Oh, fun.
Yes. So much of singing and skill building in any space is like that. Nope, I'm going to try again. Nope, I'm going to try again. Nope, I'm going to try again.
Yeah. The
That's
grit.
life.
Yeah. The grit to just keep pressing on. And I'm
Yes.
going to get it eventually. If it takes me 100 years, I'm going to keep trying.
Yes.
That's so great. I love it. So you're teaching people online and you're pouring into their talents and helping them refine and become even more of what they want to be, kind of to achieve their goals. But I know you also sing. What kinds of performances do you do?
Mm. These days, when I sing, I'm usually singing classical music, or I'm in Nashville, or I'm in the studio doing CCM.
Okay.
So, and in Nashville, that means contemporary Christian music.
Got it.
CCM can mean different things depending on where you're at in the country. And so, and I love doing that. I did a good bit of that before COVID.
Hmm.
And COVID affected the classical music scene a lot.
No, the music scene in general. It shut down
Yeah,
all performers and travelers. And yeah, it was a
totally.
crazy time.
So, that's what I do when I'm singing, and that is not what I thought I was gonna do.
Hmm.
I thought, okay, look, when I grew up, I thought classical music was the dumbest thing ever, and it's so not. It's so beautiful, and we have so much to learn from it, and so I like it. I like it a lot.
Can you give us an example? Because some of our listeners, rather, they're going to think that music that we grew up with was classical. I was trying to
Okay.
explain. I was explaining to my son the other day. He was like, "This is classical music, Mom," and I'm like, "Well, it's not really classical. It might be classic, but it's not classical. There are
Yes.
tiny little nuance there. So, can we dive into that a little?"
So in singing, classical music is styles of music performed without electronic amplification. Anything with electric amplification, i.e., microphone, is not considered classical. Now, if you get on YouTube and you're looking for classical music examples, some of what you're going to find has been electronically recorded, but the performance itself was not amplified with microphones, speakers, monitors, etc. And it's so some of my favorite composers to sing are Mozart and Bach, and I like Handel on a fun day. I like Handel. I like some Mendelssohn. Of course, our art song composer Schubert, and I didn't love Brahms until my teacher in grad school was like, "You're gonna sing some Brahms," and I was like, and then I loved it. It was so beautiful, and those composers have been writing about the same things that our current singer-songwriters are writing about.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Joy, sorrow, loss, anger, mocking different authority, whether it's like an empire or a king or a government or whatever, social commentary through song and
Mhm.
performance. That has been music's life for a very, very long time. I mean, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds
Yeah,
and hundreds
since
of
the
years.
beginning of time. It's like people forget that the
Yeah,
environment around us changes, but the core of who a human being
yeah,
is and our core
yeah.
desires to be loved and to love, to be treated well and to treat others well, to
Yes.
all of those things are so consistent from the beginning of time.
Hmm.
Mm. Well, I'm even a musician and I can't tell you that I've ever heard Brahms sung or Mozart. I mean, we typically think about them as more classical pieces that are just, orchestra or piano. We don't necessarily think of them as a vocal piece. So
Yeah.
it's interesting I would love to hear you sing one of those pieces. I'll have to look you up. And your definition of classical was interesting to me as well because there's a lot of acoustic sets. Like you could have a contemporary song that's done completely without any amplification. Would that be still considered classical in your definition?
No. No, because let me think through this. I love it when we talk about these definitions of different things in music because we rattle off a definition and then it's like, wait a second, there are a million exceptions. What is the intention of that art form? Is that song intended to be performed acoustically and in what setting? Classical music is what I think of as classical music is traditionally done with an orchestra, but oftentimes is done with just piano and sometimes classical guitar, which is beautiful. So then what makes a classical singer and a classical guitarist different from a commercial vocalist and a commercial guitarist? It just, what is the absolute defining difference? I don't know. I don't know.
Nuance. There's so much nuance to
There
it.
is so much nuance and gray area.
Yeah. Interesting. I kind of go back to any of those really old composers are classical.
Yeah.
They tend to kind of go more of a genre of time frame, I guess, myself. But I love them all, and I'd love to hear you perform and do some of that. So
It's so fun.
yeah, really,
So
really
fun.
good. Okay, so your class, where do people find you? If they wanted to find you and hear you sing and learn more about what you're doing, where would they find you?
Well, I've got my website, which is metstudioofvoice.com, and you can read all about Voice Builder there, and you can follow me on Instagram at metstudioofvoice.
Wonderful.
And I post regularly about all sorts of singing things, and if you want, you can sign up and get my weekly emails where I comment on like Grammy show performances and Super Bowl performances, which is so fun.
Oh my goodness, I'd love to hear about this. Totally got to sign on for that.
Which, by the way, like Usher or not, I think you did a great job at the Super Bowl this year.
Well, that's always the thing too, right? You have to separate whether you like them versus the quality of their performance. Because again, back to the opinion, you might not like that genre, but in that space of that genre, he or she may have done a great job.
Yes, exactly. You got to get really clear on what you're measuring when you're deciding whether or not you like something.
Right. Because, opinion isn't a clear goal. That's not a clear way to measure something. Just raw opinion.
Right.
Well, cool. I always like to wrap up with a couple of, just maybe general thoughtful questions. And so I've got two for you. If you could go back and talk to your younger self, your 20-year-old self, maybe before you officially had decided to embrace music as your career, kind of back in that early college days, what advice might you give yourself?
I would tell my 20-year-old self to trust your gut. Trust your gut even when you can't necessarily explain it. And then don't be afraid to take the time you need to try to figure out why your gut is communicating to you.
Interesting.
That's so important.
That is so good. Our intuition knows a lot more than we realize.
Trust your gut in all things.
Yeah. Okay. And then let's go back to any pivot points or surprises that really ended up shifting your trajectory of your path.
Yes. I went through a terrible divorce. And I had a little baby at the time.
Okay.
And it was so hard.
Yeah.
And so I went from having sort of a vision of a life with more babies and working part-time to, oh my gosh, I have to figure out a way to pay my mortgage. I have to start working full-time. What am I going to do? How am I going to do it? And it was then that I got very serious about what we talked about a couple weeks ago, Lisa, about that balcony time that I do on my business and my life every week. And I got really clear there and started running after the things that had to be done, which gave me vision for the things that could be done. And then the business grew, the studio grew, Voice Builder was created, and my perspective in life improved, right? Because divorce is such a loss. It is the loss of a life, 100%. And so staying really clear on what was important to me allowed me to create goals and pursue them with clarity. Even if in the moment things didn't feel so clear or so light.
Yeah. But I love that you took from that, from rising from the ashes, right? From the bringing back this new life of a life that maybe is even better than you had expected or dreamed it would
Yeah,
be. And so now you're in this whole new place. But when you're in the midst of that struggle and that horrible process of going through that, it feels like it's never going to be better. Like it feels like it's like never going to be good again.
totally. And that's when you just keep putting one foot in front of the other. And you just keep making the next best decision you can in work, in life, in parenting, in your quiet time, in whatever.
Yeah.
It's just the next best thing. And then pretty soon you can look back, even just a month earlier, and you can see improvement or progress or whatever, just something that isn't quite as heavy as it was before.
Right.
It's just
I
those small next best decisions.
bet music was almost like a medicine during those times.
Yes. There was for 18 months during that season in my life, there was only one album I could listen to,
Mm,
and I listened to it for hours at a time. I would put my baby to sleep
mm.
and I would just turn it on as loud as my earbuds could handle it
Oh, wow.
and just process.
Wow. Yeah, music does that. It creates those vibrations in our brain that
Yeah.
just kind of work. That just
Yeah.
if we could, let's pause, let's back up just a little bit. And because I think your whole concept of the balcony,
Mhm.
which you referred to just kind of in passing as you were telling me that story, it was, when you first shared that with me, I just thought that was such a brilliant way of looking at life or the goals that we have, whether it's business or personal or hobbies. Can you help our listeners hear a little bit more about what the balcony is for you?
Yes, my balcony time is something that started just as a way to work on my business rather than in my business.
Hmm.
And so it would pull me back. I'd actually look at how my work is going. I would create a goal for 6 months. So, for example, when I was divorced, I knew I needed to pay my mortgage. So that was my first goal. How am I going to get there? Okay, more students, whatever. And then I achieved that goal. But when you're so busy working in things, it's like you lose perspective on how it's actually going.
Good point.
And so every week I would look at the goals and then I would create my to-do list based on those goals. How do we achieve those things? We achieve them by tasks. So that's how balcony time started.
Okay.
Now, balcony time is the way that I organize my life. So I've got a category for personal. A friend last month asked me to run a 5K. So I thought, and I hadn't been running for a couple months. So I thought, okay, what do I need to do in my week to be ready to run that race in the way that I want? So then that became the tasks. Okay, on Tuesdays, I'm going to run for 20 minutes. On Thursdays, I'm going to run for 30 minutes. In 2 weeks, I'll add an additional 10 minutes and then I'll be really prepared. There's family life, kids, when to buy birthday gifts or when to be like pricing birthday gifts that I know I want to buy. What do I need to do? Any research or studying I need to do for my students. And in my business, that breaks down, into further goals, right? Like studying, marketing, email communications. What do I need to do monthly, weekly, daily to reach those goals that I have?
Okay.
And the way that balcony time really helps me is it gives me a clear path of activity in any given day. So when I wake up and I'm exhausted or I'm discouraged or even worse, I mean, for anybody who hears this, like your ex sues you again and you're just heartbroken over it, or your children are sick, and like they came home with colds and now school won't have them and whatever. Those tasks that you've already organized for yourself, you can just start there. You don't have to be like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do today? I have to work, but I don't even know where to start. Or I have to be present for my family, but I don't know what we need. You just, one thing on that list can help check your mind out of that spiral of not feeling capable to do
Getting me
life.
out of the stuck.
Yes, it gets you unstuck. So, and it has just benefited me so many times on so many days where I would have been completely unproductive, but I was still able to get something done because I already knew what I needed to do that day or that week. And if you miss balcony time for a couple of weeks because life happens or one of your kids is sick for 7 days, then the next kid gets sick for 7 days, then the next kid gets sick for 7 days. If that happens, you just hop back in where you left off. No big deal. And you'll find, and I have found, that by just pushing through and getting things done, even when I didn't feel like sitting down to get things done, or when, a flu bug circulates through the entire family and you're like, I'm never going to work again in my life. Actually, you do work again. There is light at the end of the tunnel and you haven't lost that much time. You can still get something done and then it's like, oh, why was I so worried about that to begin with? No big deal. No big deal.
Exactly. No big deal. I love
Lighten
that
the
balcony
load.
time. That's really when you create those list of tasks and things, then do you schedule those into your calendar then, or do you just keep them on a kind of a running list of things that you have to eventually get to?
I have my balcony time broken down by month. And then from there, during my balcony time, I turn my phone on silent. Nobody's allowed. I close my email tabs. No communication happens during balcony time. And then I have my daily to-do list. So I look at what I have to do for the month. And then I look at what my calendar already has on it, because I want to stay committed to those things, whether it's working or personal life. And then I build my to-do list based off of that. If I've got a day where I'm not seeing students, of course I can get more tasks done. But if I've got a client filled out, I want to save my energy for them, my students, and then my family when I'm done. So my task list isn't going to be as large that day. And then when I go back to balcony time the next week, if something is completed, it's checked off the list.
Got it.
If it's something that's annual, like shopping for birthday gifts or fertilizing the fig trees or pruning the cherry tree or whatever, that when it's done for that month, for the year, I just put it on for the next year and I don't even think about it until then. And then it's off my mind. So I don't even think I have to use Wi-Fi to do it. I just have like a Mac Notes, their Notes app. That's where I have my balcony time.
Nice. So how often do you do balcony time?
Weekly.
I really like the visual of that, especially as musicians, to kind of get off the stage, get out of even the front row, put yourself up in the balcony and take a look at the whole theater. And I mean, that visual is just so beautiful to me. Yeah, I can almost picture myself sitting up there on the balcony and looking over the whole theater and saying, where do I want to be by when? And what are the things I have to do to get there?
Yeah. It's so helpful.
I'm going to start doing balcony time.
Okay, I highly recommend it.
Yeah, it's good stuff. Really good stuff. Well, Megan, I so appreciate you stopping by, joining us here at Sunshine Cafe and just sharing with us your wisdom and your ideas and your balcony time and just the ways that you're pouring into your students, yourself, your family, your life. It's really encouraging to see how music plays such a large role in that kind of getting us unstuck and kind of getting us a way to express our emotions and our hurts and our loves and our passions. It's really a huge encouraging thread of life. And so I just appreciate you sharing all of that with us.
Well, thanks for hanging out for a while. It was good to connect again with you, Lisa.
Thank you. You too. Appreciate your time. Bye-bye. Bye. Well, Musical Megan is amazing. I have 5 powerful takeaways for you today. Number 1, music is a unique memory hook. Similar to smell, if you ever had one of those favorite songs, but it was part of a time in your life that was kind of traumatic or difficult, you might need to move on to a new song because that song is going to forever help you remember the difficult times. So You have to decide whether you want to relive those memories and feelings and emotions or not. If some song is bringing up bad memories, decide whether or not you just need to flip over to a new song. Number 2, for all things squishy, those things that are hard to measure and tend to be more subjective than objective. Well, for those kinds of things, Megan reminds us that we need to get really clear on what our goals are and really good at asking measurable questions. Remember, in whatever you pursue, it'll nearly never be perfect. So with all you're working on, just embrace the moment for what it was and then move on. Go get yourself another moment. Try and try and try and try again. Number 3, stop trying to impress everyone. Remember that whenever and wherever you're performing or presenting, half the room might love you and half the room might not, for the very same reason. You can't be all things to all people. So what's most important is for you to get solid on what matters to you. What are your values? And then just proceed with confidence regardless of who likes you and who doesn't. Number 4, trust your gut, even when you can't necessarily explain it. And then don't be afraid to take the time that you need to stop, pause, and figure out why your gut's communicating to you. Especially when things are heavy or when the path isn't quite clear. We've kind of all heard it, but I'll say it again. Sometimes you just have to focus on putting one foot in front of the other and make the next choice. Try not to let yourself get overwhelmed. Just make that next best decision that you can for work or life or parenting or in your quiet time and in your faith. And then pretty soon you can look back, even just a week or so, maybe even a month, and you can see some serious improvement and progress. And it doesn't quite seem as heavy as it was before. And finally, number 5, consider scheduling your own balcony time. Get off the stage, get out of the performance of life, and seat yourself way up in the balcony. Shut off your phone, close those email browsers and any other browser windows, and then just start thinking, dreaming, and capturing what you might want to accomplish with life, whether it's that week, that month, that year, or even that decade. And then capture what tasks you need to support those dreams and those goals. Hey, thank you so much for watching today and being with us on the Sunshine Cafe. I'll look forward to seeing you next time as we meet here at the Sunshine Cafe. God bless and have a great week.